Hi everyone. Over the last couple of days, I was able to take a road trip with my son to see the solar eclipse on April 8th of 2024. And while this might not be your typical eclipse video, I thought I'd share a little bit of our experience. So we are currently driving through western New York on the Southern Tier Expressway, Highway 86. And we're currently kind of winging it, but we're heading in toward Jamestown, New York. The place where we stayed the night before the eclipse was right on the edge of the path of totality. So we knew we wanted to drive a little further to get further into the middle of the path. Unfortunately, the forecast is pretty cloudy, so we're kind of just hedging our bets. I do see a little bit of blue sky ahead of us, so I'm hoping that's a good sign. We knew we could drive north or we could drive west. And after looking at the weather and the maps, we ended up driving west because it looked like there was a better chance of clouds clearing by the time the eclipse happened. We may get some rain this morning. That's supposed to move out before the eclipse, and I'm hoping that it'll take some of the clouds with it. We eventually made it to Long Point State Park on Lake Chautauqua, along with about 150, 200 other people. And we gathered our stuff and found a spot right on the shore of the lake. And we're gonna kind of ride it out here and see what we see. You can see that it's still fairly cloudy over there, so we're hoping for some kind of a break in the clouds, but we're hoping that even if the clouds don't break, it'll turn out really cool. Solar eclipse is actually going to be starting right at about 2:01. If we can see the sun, we'll be able to see the partial solar eclipse start at exactly 3:17. We should see for sure the sun's shadow coming across the lake from right over there, and it should last, totality should last about 3 minutes, give or take a couple of seconds, and then we'll see what we see. At 2:01 p.m. the partial eclipse phase began, and we could start seeing the moon start to eclipse the face of the sun. The clouds were a little pesky. Once in a while the clouds would break, we would see a little bit of the eclipse, the crowd would cheer a little bit, and we had a nice time. I kept checking the visible radar image of the area, and it really looked for a time like the back edge of the cloud would get to us before the total solar eclipse. And it almost did, but unfortunately there was one big pesky cloud right in the path of the sun. So the 4 minutes of actual totality, we did not actually see the corona or the rest of the stars in the sky or the planets that were supposed to be there. But what we saw was really, really cool. The following clip shows about 8.5 minutes of video compressed into about 20 seconds. And in it, you can see the moon's shadow approaching on the clouds, and then darkness descends, a few streetlights come on, and then a few minutes later, the darkness passes and it becomes lighter again. Everything got really cold and everything got really quiet. The sounds of nature before and after, you couldn't hear them. It was just dead quiet. And just like that, 4 minutes later, it started getting lighter again, it started getting warmer again, we heard the sounds of nature again, but for those 4 minutes, it was just surreal, but really, really cool, and I'm really glad we went to see it. Those observing in areas without clouds were able to observe a spectacular solar eclipse, including the sun's corona, some Bailey's beads, and even a solar flare appearing out behind the moon. And even without seeing the corona for those 4 minutes, it was really intense and awe-inspiring to know that we were in the shadow of the moon and that it was midnight at 3:18 in the afternoon. It was amazing, it was surreal, it was awesome, and totally worth the trip. So there you have it. It wasn't your quintessentially perfect eclipse experience, but I did get a chance to take a road trip with my son and meet some new folks and have a really nice afternoon on the banks of a really beautiful lake, and I got to see a really cool effect of the eclipse.